Nick Cohen is an entrepreneurial leader and innovator recognized as a finalist for Young Business Person of the Year and lauded for outstanding contributions to enterprise. Nick has built his career at the intersection of business strategy, marketing, and growth, adept at turning bold ideas into real-world impact. He has been deeply involved in the startup and business community, notably with Startup Grind, where he's earned respect for both his leadership and vision.
He said when the cash runs out is where the real problem starts for most business. And that's when actually most businesses die. Of course, if you can't keep the door open, there is no business again. Can you teach me something? And you did mention you made most of your mistakes in hiring and marketing. Can you give me a masterclass in sales? Because sales is the lifeblood of most business. Can you give me a masterclass in sales for somebody who is about to start now? What they can go through, how can they, a masterclass in sales?
Okay, that's a tough one.
Or how did you approach sales and getting customers and all of that?
I've always approached sales in a very natural way. Okay. I sold for a long time without saying that I was selling. I mean, I knew I was selling, but I would never have said I'm a salesperson. It's not until I'd worked with other people that people would maybe say, oh, you're quite good at selling. I would never have said that before because my sales approach has always been just the natural way of going around it. I'll never forget some sales training I did at a very early stage to get my head around the world of sales.
Impressive.
And one of the things that I was taught was find the no. A little plug for Sadler sales training. Sadler sales training. It's an American concept, but there's someone in Glasgow that teaches it. And I'll never forget one of the key lessons I took from that, which was find the no. And I still repeat that to people today. And which is don't waste your time on things that aren't going to go anywhere, even if you think they might go somewhere. Discredit them and move on to the things that are going to go somewhere, which is obviously really, really important. So for me, I approach sales in a very, very basic way. Obviously, if you've done anything in the world of sales, you'll know the kind of funnel approach. And it's just being methodical about how you approach it, being consistent, being fair, being transparent. I mean, just to emphasize that fair and transparent piece, I think that's my nugget when I have been involved in any sales capacity over my career. Make people understand that you are telling them it exactly as it is and you're not trying to do something that isn't trusted, because sales can get a bad rep in that sense with certain people mis-selling or overselling, over-promising. And we've all been guilty of doing that, maybe accidentally or carried away or something, but it's the integrity to make sure that the objective is met. So when someone's coming to you to buy something, they're not coming to you to buy that thing. They're coming to you generally to solve a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
So before anything else, you need to make sure you are solving that problem. If you're solving more than that, great. But ultimately, if someone says to you, I have this problem, the thing that you're pitching them and selling them has to solve that problem. Okay. And if for some reason it doesn't hit the nail on the head, you've got to be committed to getting to that point. And doing what my company used to do when we provided managed IT services, sometimes the problem could be, quite straightforward on paper, but in reality it grew arms and legs, or even scope creep, where, the customer said they wanted this, but they actually wanted all of this stuff, but they hadn't really told you that, or you hadn't got that out of them. We always had an approach of, we work with people for a very long time. We don't work with them for a month and step away. We work with customers for years. So we would sometimes take these things on the chin to just do the right thing to get the customer to a good place, so that we would build that bit of loyalty with them, that they would see that, we're a partner that they want us to stay. So for me, it's say transparency, fair, and just make it natural. People don't like being sold to, but they do like problems being solved. So if you take it with that mindset, don't make people feel like you're a salesperson. Just deliver it in a natural way, and also be very quick to say, I don't think we can solve that problem for you. Quite often people are taken aback when I've made that kind of comment of saying, and this can be an active customer that we're working with saying, I actually don't think we're the right partner for you anymore. And it might be a change on their side, or it could be a change on our side. But people will just appreciate that, because for me, it's just wasting everybody's time, so it's got to make sense.
So that does mean you are willing to, because of your personal belief in honesty, that means you are able to leave money on the table and walk away.
Yes, 100%. And some people might say you shouldn't do that. But I take, let's say, that personal integrity bit before anything else, because I believe that, yes, this might be the thing that you're selling right now, but what's going to come and creep back up on you in 10 years' time, you know? So I always sell as me with the product or service that's there to make sure that I feel comfortable in my own skin, that's the right thing to do.
That's nice. That's nice. Wow, that's really, really impressive. That's really impressive. So you started the business B2C.
Yep.
In my mind, you later got to the big boys, started doing managed service MSP.
Yep.
So first of all, for those who are listening who don't understand what MSP is, please explain it. Then tell us how you went from B2C to B2B.
Yep. So IT people love jargon and they love acronyms. So MSP is another great example of that. So MSP is managed service provider, and essentially an MSP would take a service or a product or a function and almost basically outsource it and manage it on your behalf. And an MSP would typically provide that product or service, and they'll provide guarantees, and they'll provide like a wrap of things around it. So let's just use Microsoft as a good example here. Microsoft 365 is a set of cloud services that a lot of people use for things like email and for Microsoft Teams and for files and things like OneDrive and SharePoint. So where an MSP provides these services is they will provide these, which anyone can buy from lots of different places, but they'll often implement it, they will train you how to use it, they will support you on it. As I said before, Microsoft products are built to break. Not as much as it used to be, but you still, when you have Microsoft products, usually need a technical partner, unless you're technical yourself. So we would provide that wrap, we would provide that comfort, often to customers that are very much not technical. So we work in industries that aren't typically IT associated industries. So a lot of lawyers, a lot of accountants, architects, construction companies, very, very varied. So when I first started, pre the days of providing managed services, we would literally fix PCs for Mr. and Mrs. Smith who live at home. The days of me early starting, as I said, Windows XP makes me feel old, sound old making that reference. And people were starting to bring more PCs into the house in the early stages. So I grew up, my first PC, in the 90s was like Windows 95. And that was in the days where you had the family computer. It would be on some sort of desk, usually with a pull-out keyboard and all that kind of stuff. And the family would share that computer. In the days where I started PC repair, families were starting to have a computer per person, often one or two desktops, but then there'd be laptops that would be introduced. Wi-Fi is a thing, broadband's a thing, all that kind of stuff. So we started at that stage. By the time I got to just before I was leaving school, I started to do some fixing for businesses. So that would be where it was a very small business, maybe a retail business, and there'd be a couple of computers. Things would break. They'd need someone they can call that would come in and fix them. That's where that came from. I then identified an opportunity with a fitness franchise. So they're global. You don't really hear of them as much anymore. They're global, but they had quite a big Scottish presence, quite a few franchisees in Scotland. I managed to do some work for a franchise that was based over in Paisley, who then asked, well, we've got a few others within our own franchise group, can you help us there? And it made more sense for me to charge them just like a retainer fee rather than paying each time I fix something, because they would need things here and there. They wanted me to take care of things like backups and make sure that was happening correctly. And that really just grew into, a cost per fitness site. Other franchisees heard about that. We won more, and before you knew it, I think we're working for maybe 30 of them around Scotland. It was dead straightforward. It was, nothing too difficult. But this was my first taste of a retainer. This was my first taste of getting a recurring
revenue
income coming.
That's
100%.
Nice.
And any time I'm speaking to somebody that's trying to build a business, I'm always guiding them to find the recurring revenue model as opposed to the lumpy project model. Won't go into all the detail, but my company laterally was mainly recurring revenue with some project stuff threaded within that. And it's something we always try to work to reduce, was to not have the lumpiness in projects. But ultimately, you can't get away from it in certain spaces. But I always wanted to make sure the business could exist in the recurring revenue part of it so that I could sleep at night better, not having to worry about big jobs that needed to be won. So ultimately I moved into B2B services just through that natural demand, then creating that opportunity. I never knew the word MSP. I wouldn't have even called us that at that point. 2011, 2011, yeah, 2011 came along, and an opportunity to take over another repair company came up. So we were in the south side, an opportunity to take over one in the city centre came up. And I'll never forget the support that I got from PSYBT. So that became part of the Prince's
What's
Trust.
that?
So PSYBT was the Prince's Scottish Youth Business Trust, and a number of people that are still around the Scottish entrepreneur ecosystem were part of that. And it was an amazing side organisation from Prince's Trust, now the King's Trust, that were connected but disconnected. It still had the King as the patron, essentially. I don't know, would have been the Prince at that time, but now the King is the patron. It was the most phenomenal organisation ever. There was a number of us around Scotland that got support. My key contact when I was growing and moving to Next Fund was Evelyn MacDonald, who's now the Chief Exec at Scottish Edge.
Oh, nice.
And it is lovely to see a lot of what PSYBT used to do now exists within Scottish Edge. And the main thing, just as a side plug for PSYBT, it was the community piece. Yes, there was some funding opportunities, there was some loan opportunities, but it was the community piece that was really key. And I've still got some very good friends to this day that I know because of PSYBT. But unfortunately, when after the financial crisis and there was a bit of restructuring going on, the Prince then decided to amalgamate some of the charities together. So PSYBT, which was never connected to Prince's Trust, it eventually got consumed into Prince's Trust, and a lot of that changed from there on, for some for good and some for bad. But then other people such as Evelyn moved on, and Scottish Edge became obviously a thing, which is now obviously a phenomenal success, which is amazing to see. But I'll never forget it. Was in the office, sitting in front of Evelyn, first time I think we probably met, and I basically said, I have an opportunity to buy this other business and to get us going in the city centre. Can you help me? And we managed to go to panel really quickly. So that was the assessment process. Unlike Scottish Edge, it wasn't a competition that you were against others. There would just be regular panel sessions that would assess your application. And we got to panel at record speed. All the paperwork was done at record fast. And we got the money, which helped us take over that site. I'll never forget this. It was 2011. World War Z was being filmed at George Square. Our site was on High Street, just 2 minutes away. And we worked day and night to renovate that place head to toe. Literally every corner of that place was completely gutted. And we did it all ourselves. I know nothing about DIY. That was quite a challenging few weeks. But I remember while we were doing that, World War Z was being filmed at George Square. So it's like a weird paradox of you're doing this, but also there's this big New York scene being filmed, Hollywood situation going on around the corner. And we got the site open and it was great, and we made a good splash. Me liking PR, we made a good splash in the area, and we attracted a lot of students from Strathclyde, which is what we were wanting, as the local repair company to help them out. Unfortunately, the thing that I totally missed, and I was completely focused on what we were doing going forward, and I never looked at what was happening on the sides. The repair market was starting to disintegrate at that point. Because now we don't talk of, oh, my laptop's broken, I'm going to take it to a computer repair shop to get it fixed. You're probably going to say, it's 3 years old, it's time to replace it. So the mindset is obviously entirely different. So I completely missed that was going on. I was so blinkered, and this is where we're going. So I had a decision to make at this point of the repair market starting to falter. We still had a business, but it wasn't going the way it was supposed to go. And that's when I made the decision to sell off PC Repair. An ex-employee bought the brand, and it still exists and runs to this day, but it's a much smaller local business in the south side of Glasgow. And my focus was then moving on to this growing business piece that we had. We had spun the business services off. We created a separate business called PCR, which ran alongside PC Repair. And we decided to just go full in on that, which was that change. It was a very different market. I knew nothing about business services at all, going into it. So I relied upon people that were around me for that, and then just a bit of gut instinct, getting it wrong, underpricing certain things. And I relied upon a technical team of people that knew what they were doing in this space, because I'd say it was completely alien to me. And that's really where we started to properly grow from there. We grabbed the word cloud with two hands and ran with it, while a lot of our competitors at that point were scared. The traditional B2B IT managed service piece, it's a load of acronyms in there, but the traditional market that we'd gone into sold physical servers, sold physical PCs, charged to install them, charged to maintain them, and then every 3, 4, 5 years, various things needed replaced. And that was just a cycle that had gone on for many, many years. Microsoft were then coming out with Office 365 back then. That was reducing the need for some of this stuff, and it was turning it into a recurring model. So we had the challenge to keep up with that, work with products that weren't quite ready, because let's face it, Microsoft tends to release things that doesn't tend to be fully ready. So we had that challenge. So yeah, it was all kind of happening at once, and that's when we grabbed a few quite new models and ran with those, and that is what really helped us go forward into that space. So everything's been relatively accidental, and it's been judgments based on what's going on in the market at the time.